This video tutorial covers proportional symbology within QGIS, and this is going to be specific to points features. So we're going to be using quake points as the example. So I currently have quake points loaded up into my QGIS project, and I have two base map features. One's ocean and one's land. Those are both coming from natural Earth. They're very simplified and generalized features. We can see I currently have the points on top of the map, and there's good map contrast here, good legibility, so I can see the points, I can see the pattern of the points. The one thing that I can't see is I can't see which ones are small quakes, or the magnitude is small, and which ones are large quakes. So by proportional symbology, we actually can do that. We can show that in the map. So that's going to be our task, is to actually develop good proportional symbology for a final map. We have two options that we can do that, or two processes. The first one is that we can use what's called graduated symbology. The second one is we can just stay within what's called a single symbol and change the size based on what's called the size assistant. Then we need to actually print the map. So we need to go to Print Composer and create a legend for our proportional symbology. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step is going to just simply be starting out with symbology for the points. So if we go to Quake Points, go down to Properties, here we have some adjustments that we can do. We can pick out these basic shapes. We can also click on Simple Marker, and at the bottom here you can see you have different shapes. So if you click on, if you want to do the symbology for earthquakes based on a triangle or based on a square, which is completely legitimate, you could go to, let's do a square. So we just say apply, and that's also a nice way to do the earthquake symbology too. I'm just going to use circles as a generalized shape for the tutorial here. So I'll say apply, okay. Okay, so you need to get to a base type symbology that you're going to utilize, that you're going to show proportionally. The next step is we're going to do two processes. The first one's going to be showing it through graduated symbology, and the next one will just be doing it through what's called the size assistant. So if we're going to do it through the process of graduated symbology, what we do is we come up to the dialog up here at the top, and we remove single symbol, and we go into graduated. Once we're in graduated, we need to specify which column we're going to utilize. So the column that we're going to change the symbol size, we need to specify that. In this case, we want to change it based on magnitude, how strong the earthquake is. So here we click on magnitude. We can see that our symbol is going to begin with the one that we set up, which is this kind of purplish color with a little black stroke on the edge. The method that we're going to use is size. We're changing the size, not color. Okay, so we change size. And then we need to specify how big is the bottom class and how big is the top class. So in this case, I found through a little experimentation that it works pretty well for my map at 0.8 to 5. So I'm going to specify the size here at 0.8, and I'm going to go to 5 as the size range, of circles. I'm going to utilize pretty breaks as a classing. So with pretty breaks, what we do is we take the class boundaries and we make those class boundaries round numbers. Okay, so in our legend we can see that we have very nice rounded breaks here, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. The issue here is that I got a lot of classes. I don't want so many classes. I'm going to just bring it down to 3, because remember, our data set in terms of magnitude, it's either going to be a small quake in the 2s down to up to about 4, some middling quakes that are going to be the 4s to even up to 6, and then we're going to have a few really big quakes, 6 to 7s. Those are very worrisome in terms of magnitude. So we're going to use pretty breaks here. We have an option here. We can apply transparency. And let's do it without transparency and then go back and apply transparency. So we're going to say apply, okay, and here's what we get. At this scale, we have a lot of big circles clumping together, which is kind of unfortunate, but at this scale we don't have a tremendous amount of control over some of the issues, map hierarchy issues here, and some of the map legibility issues that are showing up due to that clumping. We can apply transparency that will help, but at this scale what we can get as a value over just showing it as points is we can see that we have many small points up here in Alaska mixed in with some very large earthquakes. We also have a lot of small earthquakes in the United States, which is interesting. And then we also have in Southeast Asia a lot of quakes that are pretty good size, that are about the same size. So we can see some patterns in our data, and then we can also see some really big earthquakes in certain locations. We can see real big circles. So this gives a lot of value doing proportional symbology, regardless of the scale, over just points features oftentimes. So to give value to some of your data, actually showing it in a map, proportional symbols is oftentimes a really good strategy. So let's go back and let's put some transparency on this and see if we get something a little bit more easy to view. So I keep everything the same here. I'm going to go to Layer Rendering, and I'm going to change the transparency. And let's just up it to maybe 25. Say Apply, OK. And now we can see some of the small dots on top of the big dots. We can see some of the big dots overlapping each other. But we get a little bit better understanding of, or I should say separation of some of this clumping that's going on. I'm actually even going to go even more. So I'll go to Properties and up it to, say, 35. And say Apply, OK. Okay, I kind of like that. That works out pretty well. The issue here is that as you do this, you're losing map contrast. So what you might want to do as you're applying transparency, if you do apply transparency, is make sure that you retain more map contrast with your map base. Right now I'm starting to lose the contrast as I apply transparency between the base and the points features on top. Let's go back into Properties now and do one thing. So I'm going to change the symbol itself to a transparent stroke. So under Color, what I can do is I can click on Color, and I can change the color here. But also, if I open up this dialog box, I should be able to get rid of that color. Here, I'm kind of screwing this up. Let me get out of here. So I'm going to go back to Style, and here it is. If I click on Simple Marker and then go to Fill, I can make this transparent and say OK, apply it, OK. And here we can actually see just the edging of the circles. This is another approach to doing this. So now we can see that, yes, we have a lot of small circles, but we can really see the overlap of the big circles in interesting ways. So this is another option, is just make your fill transparent and just use the shape of the symbol to produce your final map. That's another option too. I'm going to go back and go to Properties and reapply that fill color. So I'll go up here, click on Simple Marker, and under Fill, I'm going to choose kind of a bright purple color and say, gotta make it sure it kicks in. There it goes. And say OK. Apply it, OK. So once I'm happy with the symbology, I like the way that it looks. I've also set up some spatial bookmarks on the bottom here, so I have a global scale, so I'm kind of looking at the whole map canvas, all my universe of data. If I want to scale in a little bit more or make it larger scale, I've set up another bookmark, what I call I'm calling FB here. Okay, so I'm getting closer to the actual scale that I want to do the final print map. Now what I need to do is get into Print Composer. So I'm going to go up to my Print Composer, and I'm going to call this first one Test. And I'm going to make the page size 8.5 by 11. Or excuse me, 11 by 17. Tabloid. It's going to be landscape. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole page. And then I'm going to draw the actual map canvas. Okay, it's pretty close to what I want, just that way. I'm going to nudge it a little bit and get it lined up to kind of how I like it. Maybe bring it down just a little bit. That's pretty good to start. Now, if I want to fine-tune this, what I can do is I can go into my scale and do some real fine-tuning of scale here. I'm pretty pleased with what it looks like right now. I'm going to go to Composer and say Save Project. Now this is all good and fine, but we have absolutely no idea what the change in the proportional symbology actually represents. And so we need to create a legend. It's really important when you actually do any symbology beyond just simple symbols that you do include a legend. It's one of those critical elements that you have in a map. So I'm going to click on legend, which is over here on the left-hand side. It looks like a legend. And if I roll over it, I should get the pop-up here. There it is, add new legend. And I'm just going to stick it down here on the bottom, draw it out. And there it is. It's not exactly what I want, so I need to go in and actually do some changes to the legend itself. Okay. So here I have its title quake points, but I have an underscore here. Maybe I want to just call this magnitude. Okay, so it's really important in the legend that we specify what we're measuring, especially if we've classed something out. So in this case, it's magnitude. Legend is kind of a boring title. So if I go into my items here, I can actually change the name of that legend. And I change the name under main properties. So here I might want to call this global earthquakes. And it would make sense to have a date here probably. Otherwise I could do it in the title. I could say global earthquakes and do the date, the temporal dimension of the data there. Okay, this is fine for right now. Now I want to change maybe some of the size components of the legend. I want to make this legend slightly larger. What I need to do now is go into positioning and size, spacing. That's where we change those items. So with position and size, we can change the frame through width and height. Okay, we can also change the position in terms of X, Y. We can also go to spacing. So the title space, I'm going to give it a little bit more space between the title and the elements. The group space, I can change. The subgroup, I can change around the size. The symbol space, if I want to give a little bit more space between my symbols, which I probably want to do. The box space I can change. That works nicely. Okay, so you have different options in terms of sizing. You should spend some time to get it just how you like it. I find that the fonts are a little bit small, so what I can do is I can go into my fonts. Title font, let's bring that up just up to 18 and maybe make it bold. Say apply. And then under magnitude is going to be my, I believe that's group font. So let's make that bold. No, that's going to be, let's try subgroup, bold. Okay, subgroup is magnitude. And then the item fonts, let's also make those just a slightly larger and bold. Okay, so that helps out to give us a legend that's a little bit more legible. Make sure that you spend some time actually working with fonts, working with spacing. You can do some column things. If you want to apply a frame or a background, you can do that. Right now I have a white page and I have a background of white. If I wanted to put a frame on it, I could just click on the frame and then I can have a thickness and a color, the edging I can change around. So there's a lot of different things you can do to your legend to really fine-tune it. Make sure that you spend some time fine-tuning the legends. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with the layout so far. To finalize this map, I'm going to need a scale bar, maybe a north arrow, especially if I've rotated the canvas. I'm going to need some titling and some sourcing. So right now we don't really know. We do know from the legend here that it's about global earthquakes. It would be nice to have a top legend and also a source tag here. We'll develop those soon. But for right now, I just save the project. And we've gone through graduated symbology for the proportional symbols. There's one other option that we can do, and I want to show that to you. For this particular map, I think the first one's probably the best and easiest, but I just want to show this as an option. So process 2, we use what's called single symbol. We're going to use size assistant, and we're going to size from, and also what's good about this is that we can control for our values from. So let me just show that to you in conclusion here. So I'm going to go back to my quake points and go to properties. And I'm going to take off graduated. I'm going to go to single symbol. and say apply, OK. You can see it goes to a small point here. And I'm going to go back to properties. In this case, I'm going to make the transparency nothing just to start. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to go where it says size. There's a size assistant that I can click on. It's over here on that far right-hand corner. And under size assistant, we tell the field that we want to be mapping on magnitude. And our scale method, we can use radius for this. And now we're going to have a change in size from 1 to 10 currently. I could make this much smaller, so I could say 0.2. That's going to give me a start dot that's very small. And then I could go to a 0.10. It's going to give me a big circle. Maybe we make that more like 7. And my values, currently it's seeing the values in the whole array of data. So it's starting at 2.5 and it's going all the way up to 7.9. Now if I want to, what I can do is just show my biggest earthquakes. So say I just wanted to show my 6s and 7s. I could start my values at 6. And now you can see what happens is I go 6, 7, all the way up to 7.9. That's what's the value within doing it through this process, through the size assistant, is that you really have a control over, without doing anything to the attribute table, just controlling for the segment of the data that you want to actually map on. So let's just go ahead and show what that looks like. So apply, OK. And here we can see that everything, we have a bunch of really small dots, but then our 6s and 7s really show up. We can see those 6s and 7s really come out in the map. Let's go back to properties and not control for the highest size. Let's just go all the way from our original data and see what that looks like. Apply, OK. And you can see it's similar to the array of the first type of symbology that we did with graduated symbols. So you can get to a similar result. The problem is that now you don't have a lot of control over how magnitude is expressed in the legend, whereas when you do the class breaks, you have more control over how you're going to end up with your final graduated symbology in the legend itself. So hopefully this video is helpful to get a sense of how to do proportional symbols and some of the parameters that we can change to produce a final map, and then importantly develop a legend that's really going to reflect well on the proportional symbology that we have accomplished.